Okay, so this video is about writing winter reflections, and specifically it's about filling out the seasonal reflections tab of the learning plan and reflections document. So we'll come into that seasonal reflections tab and see that it is completed for the fall reflections, and now we're going to work on the winter reflections section. We'll start with the contact with learner, where we'll indicate the number of direct contacts and the number of written responses we've had since fall reflections time. So we're not counting anything that's been counted over here will not be counted here. It's only since that point. And then highlights of learning. Again, very similar to fall reflections, nearly identical. One difference is the sentence at the top. This year, or for winter reflections, it will say, for winter reflections, only LOs where progress has been made to date have been assessed in the 3-year LO summary sections on each learning area tab. We needed to include this information because we've choicefully decided not to indicate not yet within expectations on the 3-year LO summary. We're only going to assign minimally, fully, or exceeding for LOs, and we're only doing this for LOs where progress has been made. We will touch upon all LOs at spring reflections time, but for winter reflections, we just wanted to leave those in progress and not determine that they are not yet within expectations. So we need to include this sentence at the beginning of our comments. Unfortunately, it's not built in because it was decided after the template was built, but so we'll need you to do that, copy and paste. Then, of course, your comments. So your comments will include summaries of the learner's progress in 3 or more learning areas. And again, like fall reflections, you can do this. By learning area. So you could talk about numeracy, then creativity, then wellness, and applied skills, or you could do it where you're talking about a project that they're working on and give significant details. And for those details, then you would identify the learning areas that have been covered by that project. This is a holistic summary. It's not intended that you detail all the learning. It's the significant pieces of learning from a zoomed out, more holistic, major growth kind of perspective. If you choose to do paragraph form, please be consistent with that. If you choose to do bullets or point form, please be consistent with that. This document is written from the LC as teacher perspective, so there will need to be teacherly language in there, and remove the family voice from the writing. There will need to be language of progression, meaning specific verbs that demonstrate that there is ongoing progress related to these learning activities, because this is a mid-year check-in, and that can be less prevalent than it has in the past, where we just ask that at least the first sentence of each new paragraph, or the opening sentence for each sort of set of bullet points contains that example of language of progression. And keep in mind, as you're choosing what to write about, that over the course of the year, all the learning areas will need to be covered in some comments, either in fall, winter, or spring. So as you're choosing areas to talk about, if there has been core learning, please do include that. If you want to update, because the learners continue to make further progress from fall reflections, you can of course do that, and you can choose new learning as well. And just keep in mind that by the end of the year, all learning areas will need to have been covered at least once, if not more, in each of the written reflections. All right, then you'll fill in the learning areas that have been covered by your comments. And you'll just do that by putting an X beside each of those learning areas. And then the last thing is future directions and support for upcoming seasons. So again, similar to fall reflections, this is a place where you can indicate your, as LC's, recommendations, your support for the upcoming season. And you can also include any future plans based on the season, like spring baseball will be happening, or if the learners moved up into Swim Kids 10 from Swim Kids 9. If there's anything that is new that you indicate in future directions, needs to be added to the changes or the updates to the LP on that learning area tab. So if they're taking a new creative writing class, then that also would need to be included on the languaging tab. And an update for this season is that we need at least 2 future directions and support. And ideally, it would be that at least one is a future direction, like a seasonal change or an update or a new direction from the learner, and at least one would indicate how you as LC are going to support the learner in a specific area. But for sure, there needs to be at least 2 points in there indicating future directions and support for the upcoming season. And that is what I need to say about writing winter reflections for 2013-14.